Well, we're down here in the 97 Underground Man Cave, and I've got a special guest here today who was with us back in the old days when we had our FM station and rocked this town. This is Heavy Metal Han over here. Welcome to the Underground Cave.
Thanks, bud.
And first of all, I wanted to bring people in here to talk about the times we had back in the 80s and what they were about. So really, I didn't know too much about your shift because a lot of it was weekends and overnights, and I was just old and getting older by the second, so I could keep this moving before it's all over. But what was it like for you back then? You were how old when you started?
I want to say like 18, 19.
Yeah. So, and then how'd you get involved?
Well, I'll tell you, I'd heard about it. I was working at Hammerjacks. I was bar backing for 3 years, then I bartended for like the last year or so. And then I was there. So I was like four years up total, something like that. But I'd heard about the station getting ready to come on air. And I'd known Mike back then, Mikey B or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember what he went by, but anyway, I talked to him. I said, hey, I want to be on the station, And he blew it off, whatever, And because I guess I was just one of the multitudes of people that wanted to be on the station. And we were getting ready to do heavy metal Sundays at Hammerjacks, which was going to just be like all these incredible bands on Sundays and, for all ages shows. And I'd been bar backing for years. I told the owner, Louie, I said, look, Louie, because I've DJ'd several times, because I would come in and I want to hear some of my tunes. So I'd learned how to use the system. And I'd put on all these killer, metal songs when we were starting the shifts, like preparing for the shifts, rather. And instead of hearing, sometimes we had one of the managers and he'd play all this woo-woo music, like Luther Vandross and stuff like that. And it'd be killing us, we're like, come on, man, So anyway, I learned the system, and there was times where I would, DJ, and then there'd be DJs that were running late, got stuck in traffic. They'd call in, they'd call me off the floor. They'd say, look, Pete, we need you in the DJ booth for an hour or so.
Sure.
So I've learned how to do that. So I told Louie when we were going to get ready to do these metal shows, which we had Anthrax and Metal Church at one time, I said, look, you can't have these DJs that we have now. They don't have any of the material. These people are going to go nuts. You can't play like Bon Jovi at a metal show, So he thought about it, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna make you the DJ for these shows. So I did that, and I did a little something also on top. Aside from that, like we were doing Metal Militia, something I called Metal Militia, for people that wanted to sign up for shirts and stuff like that came to these metal shows, So anyway, Mike came in, and he heard me on, DJing, and I guess that was it for him. He decided that, I would be a good fit. That was it. Then I became, like I was doing overnights. They were horrible, man. I was like going to done because I was working at Hammerjacks till 2, and on Fridays they started doing these meetings, these, I don't know, it was mandatory meetings between all the bar backs, all the bartenders, all the security, and you had to stay there. And I'm like, look, I don't know when I'm getting out of these things, and I guess Mike was like, he didn't care because I was doing like 2 to 8, but like I said, I wouldn't get there till like 3 or so, at least on a Friday because of those meetings. And I felt bad about it, but it was letting him go to sleep,
Yep.
So I was doing those horrible shifts, 2 to 8 in the morning on Fridays and Saturdays. And, but it was cool. I got my chops there, I learned a lot. And then we moved to Fleet Street. And I'll tell you what, man, that's where it became fun. Because
Now, what do you want to ask what some of that was?
oh my, see, yeah, I'm glad you didn't listen. It was a fiasco. I mean, I just had a blast. I ran with it. I did, the live set part was cool. Like the first couple hours was my show, and I did my own programming. You know, we had program directors, but I didn't follow those a lot. You know, barely, because it wasn't, you know, it wasn't my show that I wanted to put out there.
So you had some creativity.
Oh yeah,
in what you wanted to play, especially at that time of night. I guess it would be.
Yeah.
People getting out of the bars and so on, and
I'll tell you. Well, what happened was, I'll tell you what happened. After I guess I quit because the first time with doing those overnights, because it was too much. So I don't know how long I did that for, but then I was gone for a while, and then you moved to Fleet Street. Then when I found that out, that's when I wanted to get back. So, but what I did was I came on air with Derek, and just, you know, he just brought me back for like doing an interview thing, and he was laughing. I made him laugh. It was a lot of fun, and he decided, he was like, "Man, we need to bring you back," you know. And he's like, "Why don't you bring somebody?" So that's where I got Chief from, you know, because I wanted to have somebody that could be more the operator, you know.
So Chief was your sidekick?
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to be the sidekick, but didn't work out that way. I learned how to, you know, be the operator and do all that stuff, and then he was my sidekick. But like I said, I wanted it to be the other way, but we had so much fun. I mean, I came up with stuff like, "Don't call us, we'll call you." And people, I mean, I got all this mail. Like, I was getting more mail. And my shift then was Sunday nights, 8 to 12. So the first 2 hours were me, basically. The second hours was listen. The third and fourth hour was listener choice. So I would take a lot of requests, you know, and I put people on the radio that were listening, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, and "Don't call us, we'll call you." That was something like, just open up the yellow pages and I just stick my finger in and we call business.
Oh, jeez.
Mainly, and we'd prank a business on air live, you know, well, it wasn't live. We record it and then we put it on like a couple minutes after, you know. But that was a blast. I did a lot of that stuff. I was doing the news, you know, which the weather or whatever. No, not the news, the weather, with one of my different voices and stuff. So that was cool. It was fun. We had like Reflector Bob, Chief's, you know, his alter ego, and we used to play with it, just have a good time. Then you know, I remember calling. I'll tell you this. I remember calling like the pizza places down there or in the area.
Oh yeah.
And I'd be like, "Hey, this is Heavy Metal Han, 97 Underground. Like, we want a pie, you know. Let me speak to your manager." So they get the manager on there. And I tell him what was up, and he's like, "Oh yeah, no problem. We'll get your pie immediately," you know. So like half hour later, free pie arrives at the place, you know. And then we could be like, "Oh yeah, Vizzini's the best pizza around," you know.
There you go.
Next week it might be Domino's.
Might be Domino's. Whatever we go.
Exactly. It was fun. Then I would get all kinds of calls. Like I was getting a lot of female callers, and God bless them. They were just awesome. There was a lot of awesome people back then, you know.
It was funny.
And it became like a helpline too, you know.
Yeah,
I felt like
sure
I tried to help some people.
And we never knew really what we were doing from day one on this. You had mentioned during the break, you asked about this sign, which is a WFBR sign.
Yep.
And WFBR was a radio station, an AM station. It's been here since 1922. It's not there anymore, but I was involved with my first radio job with Johnny Walker, and we put up a new transmitter site, and Johnny Walker was the big thing in town on an AM station, the first really, you know, funny guy. But how it fits in with us is that I ended up getting this radio station, this FM station, and I didn't really know what to do with it. So I went to my brother-in-law, who was then working for Polygram Records, and he had Bon Jovi's on his label. He had with Def Leppard on his label, a couple other of these bands. And he said to me, "Why don't you play heavy metal?" I didn't know what the hell it was back then.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just one of those things. And he said, "It's a niche that's not being served. Why don't you try that?" He said, "I'll get you some of the music," which he did. So really, this radio station, if it wasn't for that, and we both worked together at that time, and then he became a brother-in-law, and went to Polygram, we wouldn't be doing it. So it was just kind of one of those unique things where one radio station depends on the other. So
Right. Huh.
yeah, it was kind of a unique thing. Every day was where you're going to get the next buck to keep things going, and you always had problems with other stations in town, and they didn't know how to handle us, but we were like right there. So the things that you did on that late night stuff was really kind of this freeform radio that in a lot of cases is in, now on the internet, because
Right.
now we've got a lot of that stuff there.